set in 2026 when the world experienced a major economic crisis and everyone needed money to survive. As a result, all countries thought hard to keep their people from starving to death. In the state of California, a company called the Grand Death Lotto emerged, which distributed lottery tickets with a total prize worth millions of dollars. What was crazy was that everyone was allowed to hunt down the winner and had to kill them if they wanted to win the prize, on one condition: they were not allowed to use firearms. 4 years later, California turned into an arena of bloodshed because of the lottery, and everyone was competing to kill the winner. That day, the jackpot winner was chased by people who wanted to seize the prize. The man sneaked into a house where an old lady lived. At first, the old lady didn't know that the man was the lottery winner, but after seeing the drone monitoring her house, she immediately knew because the lottery company always monitors winners using drones. The old lady, who was also in need of money, immediately took out a weapon and killed the man. With the death of the winner, the lottery legally belonged to the old lady, and before it was taken by someone else, she immediately claimed the prize, and not long after, company representatives came to give the prize. Somewhere else, a woman named Katie had just arrived in California, Los Angeles. She was a former child actor who was no longer popular and wanted to try her luck in Hollywood by participating in a casting. On the bus, she saw an angry father who had the heart to say harsh words to his daughter. Feeling in the same boat as the little girl, Katie immediately pretended to be a police officer in front of the man. She threatened to report him to social services on charges of child exploitation. In essence, Katie told him to treat his daughter as a human being, not as a walking ATM. Suddenly, the man was silent and felt intimidated by Katie's very natural acting. After scaring the man, Katie sat back in her seat while waiting for the bus to stop at the next stop. Next to her, an old lady praised her. Katie said that she had also been there before, exploited as a child. After she became an adult, she wanted to pursue her acting career without having to be driven by anyone. The old lady was sure that Katie would become a successful Hollywood star. Then, after saying that, she got out of the bus with a friendly smile. But when the bus left, Katie realized that the old lady had stolen her watch. Katie realized that California was full of criminals like New York, but she didn't know that crime in this place was much more chaotic than just pickpocketing. Short story, Katie finally arrived at the apartment he rented, but unfortunately, the place was completely different from the one in the photo. The place was very uncomfortable and shabby. Even so, she still wanted to stay there because she didn't have much money. She had a roommate named Shadi who was also trying her luck as a low-level actress in Hollywood, so it didn't take long for them to become friends. She lived with her boyfriend DJ. At the same time, a former special force troop named Noel was assembling a gun. Different from conventional Californians in general, he didn't want to kill the lottery winner at all, but instead, he and his friend opened a protection service for them with a fee of 10% of the jackpot money. The next day, Katie woke up from her sleep because of a leak in the ceiling. At first, she thought it was rainwater, but after she smelled it, it turned out it was feces from the occupants of the top floor. What was worse, all that also stained the clothes she had to wear to the audition. So she was forced to dig into her pockets to rent Shadi's clothes. Even though the clothes looked cringy, she had no other option but to use them. Her bad luck didn't stop there, because when she arrived at the audition venue, she had to pay $400, even though according to the information she got, the registration fee was only $200. For the sake of her acting career, she was willing to spend all the money she had so she could take part in the audition. During the audition, she accidentally took a lottery ticket from her pocket. Apparently, it was a lottery card that had not been registered, and because Katie's thumb touched the registration button, she automatically became the owner of the card. Surprisingly, it turned out that the card was this month's lottery winner. Katie, who didn't know anything, ignored her winning, but then she was shocked when all the casting participants took weapons and wanted to kill her. While everyone was hunting her for the money, Katie was still wondering what happened. Suddenly, the situation became very chaotic because everyone killed each other to catch her. When she was cornered, suddenly a man in a suit appeared who was none other than Noel. At first, Katie thought that this man would also hunt her, but it turned out that Noel immediately beat everyone and protected her from danger. Amid the fight, Noel asked Katie to sign a letter of agreement where he would get 10% of the prize as payment for his protection services. Because she didn't know anything, Katie immediately agreed. After knocking out everyone in the building, Noel explained everything to Katie, that she had won a lottery worth millions of dollars, but everyone was legal to kill her. He also explained that she would be monitored by a drone which would tell her location to the fans. Noel also explained that fans were a term for people who wanted to kill her, so she had to quickly find a hiding place. Fed up with all of that, Katie asked Noel how to cancel the lottery ticket. Unfortunately, there was no way to cancel the lottery ticket except by escaping the fans' chase or leaving the city, so Noel asked Katie to calm down because he would protect her, and without saying much more, they escaped from there. After a very adrenaline-fueled chase, the two of them arrived at a safe place. Katie tried to escape because she still didn't believe Noel. Not long after that, two policemen approached them. Katie felt happy because the authorities had come, but it turned out that the two policemen had come to kill her too. Noel came to stop the officers and Katie used the chance to escape. After walking away from Noel and the police, Katie took refuge in a museum thanks to the help of a security named Earl who despised the lottery program. Katie then called Shadi and intended to borrow her car, but not long after, she realized that it was possible that Shadi also wanted to kill her. Sure enough, Shadi and DJ soon arrived at the museum. After getting the location from the surveillance drone, without thinking twice, the two immediately paralyzed Earl. In the end, they both found Katie in the museum. At first, the two pretended to be good, but Katie already knew that everyone in California wanted the lottery prize, including them, so Shadi and DJ decided to attack her. Because she was cornered, Katie had to fight the two. Unfortunately, even though she had escaped the pursuit of Shadi and DJ, Katie was faced with dozens of people who were ready to kill her. Luckily, Noel came at the right time, and even though she still didn't believe him 100%, she had no other choice but to get into his car. In the car, Katie could only swear. She felt like she was in an irony where she never had fans after her popularity faded. But once she finally had fans again, they wanted to kill her. She then asked Noel why he wanted to protect her even though he could have killed her and taken all the lottery money. Noel only said that he was a good person who wanted to help. Not long after, the fans found them thanks to the surveillance drone. Katie then got the brilliant idea to go to the Hollywood artist's house to look for shelter because usually rich people have a panic room. When they got there, they knocked on the door of NGK's house, a rapper who was quite famous. Katie immediately threatened him with Noel's gun. Finally, Kelly showed them the panic room in his house, but unfortunately, the fans had arrived. Katie, who was panicking, accidentally shot Kelly until he fainted and then locked the panic room. In the panic room, Katie kept pointing a gun at Noel, and Casey suddenly betrayed her. Seeing Katie, who was still in a panic, Noel invited her to talk about life. He told her about the world record he got as the fastest irony in the world. When he was telling the story, Katie's keychain fell out of her pocket. Noel immediately asked why the chain was shaped like the Oscar Award trophy. Katie said that the object was a gift from his late mother who always prayed for her to become a Hollywood star, but when she was little, her father took all their money and disappeared, and since then, her career as a child actor declined drastically until her family fell into poverty, so she came to Hollywood to change her life. Apart from that, acting also made her always feel close to her mother. After hearing Katie's sad story, Noel was willing to help her cancel the lottery as she wished. He knew someone who could do this. Katie wondered because if the lottery was canceled, then Noel wouldn't get paid the 10%, but even so, Noel would still help because he always prioritized his clients' lives, and he didn't think of Katie as a walking ATM. The fans outside were trying to break down the panic room door while Shadi slapped MGK to wake him up and told her the access code to the panic room. Unfortunately, Shadi managed to wake him up and get the code to open the room. Seeing this, Noel called his friend who was able to hack the cell phones of the fans to make all of it short-circuited. Not long after, the phones began short-circuiting, and when everyone was panicking because of the explosion, Noel asked Katie to come out because people from the protection company had come to pick them up. On the other hand, Shadi looked very angry after DJ was seriously injured, so she was determined to kill Katie and Noel, not only to get money but also to avenge what they had done to DJ. Katie arrived at a company owned by Noel's friend, Lewis, called Lewis Protection Agency, or LPA. Apparently, this company operated in the security sector to protect lottery winners who needed help like Katie. After getting to know each other, Lewis invited her into the building and showed her a list of winners for the last 4 years. But strangely, all the winners were written as anonymous. Lewis then persuaded Katie to claim her lottery prize rather than forfeit it. But Katie didn't want to accept it because she wanted to make money with her own hard work, not because of luck. But after being convinced that the money would be useful for her future, Katie finally wanted to claim her prize, and LPA agreed to secure her with conditions. Noel and LPA must each get 30% of the prize. After all parties agreed, Katie immediately signed a letter of agreement. After that, Katie was taken to a room to process the prize claim while Noel and Lewis were seen talking for a moment. For some reason, they looked awkward even though they had been friends for a long time, as if they had had problems in the past. Before claiming the lottery, Katie and Noel underwent medical treatment first because they suffered several injuries. While being treated, Noel told Katie about his past with Lewis when they were still active as the Special Force troops. One time, they were assigned to slaughter bad people, but after investigating it, it turned out that not all their targets were worthy of being killed. Therefore, Noel chose to leave the squad, but not long after, he heard the news that his entire squad had died at the hands of criminals and only Lewis was the only one still alive. Since that day, he felt very guilty towards Lewis and the families of his colleagues because thanks to his leave, everything became a mess. Finally, he worked hard to earn money so he could atone for his sins by providing support for the families of his colleagues. He was also grateful because Katie was willing to give 30% to him so he could donate more money to them. Not long after, Lewis's men come in and ask Katie to put her head into a machine where the machine would print a disguise so she could go out of town safely and comfortably. Katie chose the face of a man with a mustache and beard to be her camouflage. After Katie got the disguise, Lewis ordered his men to escort him out of town. He then promised to immediately transfer the money to Katie if the disbursement process was complete. When Noel heard that, he was suspicious of Lewis because lottery claims should only be made by the winner or the person who killed the winner. Apart from that, the prize would come that very moment and there was no need to wait for a long disbursement process. At this point, he felt something was wrong with his old friend. Moreover, all the winners Lewis had ever helped were written down as anonymous, so it was possible that Lewis and his men had killed them all and claimed all the prizes for building the company. Katie was surprised when Lewis didn't allow Noel to come with him, and as a result, Katie kicked Lewis to catch him off guard. When the fans came to find Katie soon after, Noel then told Katie to hijack one of the cars belonging to Lewis's men and immediately went out of town while he bought time so that Lewis wouldn't chase her. Luckily, Katie managed to escape from Lewis and go to the border of California. Meanwhile, without her realizing it, many people did live streaming to support her because she was the only winner who could escape. Unfortunately, when she was almost at the border, Lewis suddenly called her and threatened to finish Noel off if she didn't turn back. Noel told her not to comply with Lewis, but Katie felt she had a moral burden to save him, so she made up her mind to turn around. Lewis dragged Noel to an empty theater in Los Angeles, where he brought up the past when Noel left the mission for the sake of his principles. Lewis told the incident in the past when Noel resigned from the mission. It turned out that the target they had to kill at that time was a very rich person who owned the most gold in America at that time. Lewis managed to finish the target off, but because he didn't want to share the gold, he was willing to slaughter his entire army for the sake of the gold. Hearing this, Noel was furious because he thought that all along he had made a mistake. On the other hand, the lottery company announced that Katie's time to claim the prize was due in 15 minutes, and if Lewis hadn't killed her before then he wouldn't get a penny. Not long after, Katie entered the theater while pointing a gun at her own head. She said that money had made Lewis evil and that he had the heart to kill many people to get the lottery prize. She chose to die so that the prize could not be claimed by anyone. He even did a live stream so that everyone knew she wasn't killed but killed herself, meaning no one could claim her prize. Of course, Lewis tried to persuade Katie to make peace and share the money fairly. Hearing this, Katie pretended to agree and immediately approached Lewis to hand over her gun, but suddenly he kicked Lewis. Unfortunately, even though he managed to knock Lewis out, the fans had surrounded the theater. They didn't want to waste the remaining time, so Katie had to save herself. Meanwhile, seeing the increasingly chaotic situation, Noel got up and beat up the fans even though his hands were still tied. Thanks to Katie, Noel managed to untie himself and he had to face Lewis to avenge the death of his colleagues. Meanwhile, Katie, who was about to run away, was blocked by Shadi, so like it or not, she was forced to fight her. The situation became even more chaotic when the fans filled the place, so Katie couldn't escape and could only climb the highest property. At the same time, Noel helped her by buying time by blocking Lewis and his men. Unfortunately, the fans handled Noel easily while Lewis almost dropped Katie from the height. But what Lewis didn't realize was that Katie knew that he had a grenade in his jacket, and luckily she managed to pull out the grenade pin. The explosion killed Lewis instantly, and Katie fell from the height. Surprisingly, hundreds of people showed up and caught her body when she fell. It turned out that people were real fans, not people who wanted to kill her. They felt that Katie was an inspiring person who tried to survive even though everyone was trying to kill her. Katie then hugged Noel and thanked him for his help so far. In return, she would give 50% of the lottery prize to him because he was a good person, unlike Lewis, who always prioritized money. Not long after, the team from the lottery company came to give the prize immediately. After getting the prize, Noel asked if Katie still wanted to be an actress, but Katie decided that she just wanted to enjoy her life. 6 months later, Katie used her lottery prize to build an orphanage, a charity foundation, a pizza restaurant, and even built their own protection agency that guarded the lottery winners for free. Apart from that, she and Noel also opened a martial arts school where Shady and her boyfriend joined. In the end, Katie and Noel became friends and enjoyed their lives without having to think about the world crisis. At the end of the movie, the Grand Death Lotto would open branches in other countries with bigger prizes and more exciting conditions.